Welcome back to Rapture Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and get ready for another story you won't forget. Let's dive back to the story. Charlotte Bennett had always believed her marriage to Edward was a partnership built on love and mutual respect. As a senior financial analyst in London, she had spent years working late nights, mastering complex financial models, and quietly outshining many of her male colleagues. Edward had always appeared supportive, praised her work at home and in private, making her feel seen and appreciated. That morning, Charlotte was particularly excited. She had received official confirmation of her promotion to director, a milestone she had worked tirelessly for. She carefully chose a dress for their anniversary dinner, rehearsed what she would say, and even invited Edward's mother, Mrs. Thompson, hoping the family would celebrate her accomplishment with genuine pride. The air was charged with anticipation as they arrived at the elegant restaurant, the clinking of glasses and soft jazz seeming to herald a night of joy. But the celebration immediately turned sour. As Charlotte shared her promotion, expecting applause or at least kind words, a cold silence hung over the table. Mrs. Thompson's sharp gaze cut through the air as she accused Charlotte of trying to overshadow Edward, implying that her ambition threatened the balance of their marriage. Charlotte was stunned, hurt by the words, and tried to explain the effort, dedication, and sacrifices behind her success. Edward's initial smile faltered, and he shifted uncomfortably, caught between his mother and his wife. Tension escalated quickly. Words became accusations. And when Edward, influenced by his mother's disapproval, accused Charlotte of valuing her career above their marriage, the situation spiraled. In a sudden, horrifying moment, he struck her across the face. The restaurant fell silent, diners frozen, while Charlotte, dazed and humiliated, found herself on the floor, her dreams and love colliding in one brutal instant. Charlotte left the restaurant without a backward glance, each step heavy with betrayal, but propelled by a growing sense of self-preservation. That night, alone in her apartment, she allowed herself the full weight of her shock and sorrow. Tears mingled with resolve. She realized that the life she had imagined, partnership, love, and celebration, was no longer possible with Edward. By morning, she was resolute. She contacted Karen, a respected divorce attorney recommended by her friend Rachel, and began the painstaking process of untangling herself from Edward's control. Work became her refuge. She immersed herself in financial reports, client meetings, and strategy sessions, reclaiming the confidence that had been battered alongside her heart. Each task completed was a small victory, a reminder that her worth was defined by her own accomplishments, not the cruel words or actions of her husband. As weeks passed, Charlotte found strength in her own resilience. Edward attempted contact sporadically, alternating between false apologies and veiled threats, but Charlotte maintained firm boundaries, refusing to be drawn back into the toxicity. Friends rallied around her, their support reinforcing her determination to rebuild. Then came an invitation that would shift her focus beyond her personal survival. A Women in Finance conference sought speakers who could inspire and empower. Despite lingering doubts, Charlotte accepted, seeing the opportunity as a chance to transform her pain into purpose. On the stage, addressing hundreds of women navigating complexities of ambition and societal expectations, she shared her story openly. Her narrative was raw, honest, and powerful, resonating with many who would face similar struggles, and igniting in Charlotte a newfound passion for mentorship. The conference marked the beginning of a new chapter. Charlotte began informal mentorships, guiding young women through professional challenges, teaching them to assert themselves and demonstrating that career ambitions and personal integrity could coexist. Her confidence, once shaken by Edward's betrayal, solidified with every interaction. While she still experienced flashes of anger or sadness when recalling her anniversary ordeal, she channeled them into motivation. She refused to be defined by the assault or the toxic marriage. Instead, she allowed her achievements, guidance, and growing influence to define her. Every email of thanks, every breakthrough in her men's careers, reinforced her belief that she could turn personal trauma into societal impact. Divorce proceedings dragged on, but Charlotte remained composed and professional. Edward, increasingly desperate, oscillated between pleading for reconciliation and threatening litigation, attempting to manipulate her emotions. Charlotte, however, had transformed her grief into clarity. She maintained meticulous records, consulted Karen on every step, and refused to be intimidated by Edward's vacillations. Work, mentorship, and self-care became her pillars. Slowly, she rediscovered her joy and independence, realizing that the love she had for herself, for her mind, and for her career was stronger than any attachment to a husband who had betrayed her trust. Each day brought subtle victories, financial strategy wins, mentee successes, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing she was reclaiming her life. The first public recognition of her mentorship came when an article featured her story, highlighting her resilience and professional prowess. Charlotte received messages from women around the country, thanking her for giving voice to their struggles and showing that recovery and empowerment were possible. Edward, by contrast, became a peripheral figure in the narrative of her life, his attempts at manipulation increasingly irrelevant. Charlotte's confidence deepened. She realized that her voice and influence had grown precisely because she refused to be silenced by humiliation or fear. Each conversation, each lecture, and each mentee's success became a reinforcement of her autonomy and her right to thrive on her own terms. As she prepared for a second Women in Finance conference, Charlotte noticed a shift in her personal life. Friends introduced her to professional networks, social gatherings, and charity events where she met individuals who respected her intellect and independence. She discovered a vibrancy in her social interactions that had been absent during her marriage, the freedom to connect without fear or subordination invigorating her. Edward's sporadic messages, once capable of shaking her, now elicited only indifference. Charlotte recognized that her healing was not linear, but each day brought new opportunities to assert her value and rebuild her confidence. The experience transformed her understanding of relationships, self-respect, and personal boundaries. Charlotte's mentorship program expanded into a formal initiative, pairing young women in finance with established professionals who could guide them through career and personal challenges. She became a sought-after speaker, not just for her professional expertise, but for her compelling story of resilience and courage. Every panel, every lecture, and every workshop reinforced her sense of purpose. She discovered that her painful experiences could become instruments of empowerment, showing others that trauma need not dictate one's future. Through teaching, advising, and leading, Charlotte solidified her identity as a formidable professional and a compassionate mentor, her life no longer overshadowed by Edward's actions. During the ongoing divorce proceedings, Edward attempted to present himself as repentant, but Charlotte's clarity prevented any manipulation. She remained resolute, understanding that legal resolution would not only free her from a marriage, but also affirm her independence. Each court date, each legal discussion, reinforced her agency. Edward's volatility contrasted sharply with her growing composure. In private moments, Charlotte reflected on how far she had come, from humiliation at the restaurant to commanding rooms with her voice, intellect, and presence. She was no longer defined by fear or betrayal, but by resilience, achievement, and the support of a growing network of women she had inspired. As finalization of the divorce approached, Charlotte experienced a profound sense of liberation. The legal acknowledgement of her autonomy felt symbolic, a formal confirmation that she could live free from abuse, criticism, and control. The weight of the marriage lifted, replaced by a confidence that permeated her professional and personal spheres. Charlotte's mentorship program continued to flourish, attracting participants from across London and beyond. Each success reinforced her belief that adversity could be transformed into influence and guidance. She realized that the future she had envisioned was not tied to Edward or any partner, but to her own vision, courage, and dedication. Charlotte's life gradually filled with opportunities, recognition, and personal fulfillment. She traveled for conferences, met remarkable women, and established partnerships that expanded her mentorship network. Edward's presence faded entirely. His sporadic attempts at contact were met with firm boundaries and polite disengagement. Charlotte's heart, once bruised and betrayed, healed through achievement, connection, and purpose. Each day was a testament to her resilience, her ability to overcome humiliation and pain, and her refusal to let anyone define her worth. She had transformed the trauma of her marriage into a roadmap for empowerment, both for herself and the women she guided. By the time the divorce was officially finalized, Charlotte had become a respected figure in London's financial community. Colleagues, mentors, and friends celebrated her success, unaware of the personal trials that had shaped her ascent. Charlotte embraced her autonomy fully, finding joy in accomplishments previously overshadowed by fear and self-doubt. Edward's absence was no longer painful, but liberating. The future she envisioned, professional growth, meaningful connections, and mentorship, was fully within reach. She understood that true strength often emerges from adversity, and that courage is cultivated through persistence, reflection, and self-belief. Charlotte's mentorship program now hosted workshops, lectures, and networking events, creating a robust community of ambitious women. She balanced professional excellence with personal fulfillment, learning to celebrate her successes without guilt or inhibition. Edward's attempt to interfere or manipulate had long ceased, replaced by the realization that she was untouchable in her integrity and purpose. Charlotte had built not only a career but a legacy, showing that resilience and leadership could coexist with compassion and empowerment. Her story became a quiet inspiration, proof that even the deepest betrayal could be transformed into influence and guidance. Through her speaking engagements, Charlotte encountered women who had endured abuse, workplace discrimination, and societal pressures. She listened, advised, and encouraged, transforming her experiences into a powerful tool for advocacy. Each conversation reinforced her belief in self-worth, boundaries, and the importance of mentorship. Charlotte's life, once overshadowed by humiliation, now shone with a glow of achievement, resilience, and purposeful impact. She realized that while Edward had taken a moment from her, he could not take her future, her voice, or her influence. Charlotte's personal confidence flourished alongside her professional growth. Social interactions became joyful rather than stressful, and relationships were now built on mutual respect and shared ambition. She developed a deep sense of self-reliance, recognizing that independence was empowering, not isolating. Edward's sporadic attempts at reconciliation or intimidation were met with calm detachment. Charlotte understood that healing was ongoing but achievable, and that she had the power to shape her life free from the shadows of betrayal. Her focus shifted entirely to impact, growth, and the women she mentored. The mentorship initiative gained media attention, highlighting Charlotte as a figure of empowerment in finance. Her story, once private and painful, became a beacon of hope for countless women facing professional and personal challenges. Charlotte embraced this visibility, using it to expand her reach, influence policies, and create opportunities for young women in the industry. Edward's presence remained irrelevant. His inability to reconcile with his own actions contrasted starkly with Charlotte's evolution. She had transformed humiliation into influence, betrayal into purpose, and adversity into leadership. Charlotte's confidence and independence attracted new social and professional connections built on respect and shared goals. She developed meaningful friendships and partnerships, discovering the joy of collaborative growth. Her days were filled with mentoring, strategy sessions, and speaking engagements, each reinforcing her identity as a resilient, powerful, and compassionate woman. Edward, by now a faint echo in her past, no longer affected her emotional landscape. Charlotte's life, once disrupted by betrayal, now radiated stability, accomplishment, and self-determined joy. As she reflected on her journey, Charlotte realized that the restaurant incident, once a moment of humiliation, had catalyzed profound growth. She had transformed fear into courage, pain into purpose, and betrayal into empowerment. Her mentorship program continued to expand, impacting lives far beyond her immediate sphere. Every young woman she guided carried a piece of her story, a reminder that resilience and ambition could overcome adversity. Charlotte had turned the darkest chapter of her life into a platform for light, leadership, and inspiration. Charlotte's life continued to evolve, marked by personal growth, professional achievement, and meaningful influence. She embraced opportunities to speak internationally, collaborate with leading organizations, and advocate for women in finance. Each accomplishment reinforced her independence, self-respect, and the realization that her value was intrinsic, not defined by others. Edward's attempts at intrusion faded into irrelevance. Charlotte had become the architect of her own life, fully liberated from the constraints of her past, empowered to inspire and uplift others through her story and leadership. Charlotte eventually expanded her mentorship program into a foundation, offering scholarships, training, and guidance for women across the UK. Her personal journey became an emblem of resilience and empowerment, her story widely recognized as transformative. She balanced professional demands with personal fulfillment, demonstrating that achievement and compassion could coexist. Edward's memory no longer evoked anger or pain, but served as a reminder of her strength. Charlotte had reclaimed her life entirely, shaping a legacy defined by empowerment, courage, and unwavering self-worth. Charlotte's final reflections on her journey underscored the power of perseverance. From the humiliating blow at the restaurant to her ascent as a respected leader, she had transformed adversity into authority. Her mentorship program continued to grow, touching lives and inspiring countless women to pursue their ambitions unapologetically. Independence, confidence, and purpose became the pillars of her existence. Edward's presence, once dominant, was now entirely absent. Charlotte's story concluded not with heartbreak, but with triumph, resilience, and the promise of continued influence for generations of women in finance. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.